Hello and welcome to another episode of the Kid Stories Podcast. I'm Phil Bechtel. Let's get into some shout-outs. Ronan from Vancouver shared some awesome drawings. Great stuff, Ronan. I think if you were a character in the stories, you would be a robot ninja, created in the town of Power Up to guard all the most powerful inventions there. Thanks for listening, Ronan. And Miles from Lakeville, Minnesota made a clown dojo out of magnetiles. Very impressive, Miles. I think if you were a character in the stories, you'd be a member of the clown dojo, and you'd have other tiny little clown ninjas in your pockets that you'd toss out to help you in battles. Thanks for listening, Miles. Today's story was made with help from Auden and Tristan, who've been big fans of the show for quite a while. They had incredible ideas, and I know we're all going to love this series. Today's story is titled, Time's Up, Part 1. Down in the southern swamps, a group of Bizards makes an unlikely alliance with a group of cave trolls.
All right then, trolls. I know that together we can find the clock, said the new leader of the Bizard tribe. And once we have the clock, we can make every ninja 100 years old. They'll be too old to fight, and we'll take over the valley in no time.
The Bizards and cave trolls were in completely separate groups as they listened to the Bizards' speech. Bizards and cave trolls never worked together. They usually stayed well out of each other's way. In the few instances that they have fought, it never turned out well for either side. And now here they were, united by one ambitious Bizard in the hopes of finding an ancient artifact known simply as the clock.
But they say that the clock is not real,
called out one cave troll.
Well, I know it's real,
the Bizard shouted back.
I've seen it.
The Bizard whipped his hand out from inside his robe to reveal a crystal ball, shiny and bright, in the palm of his hairy hand. A hush fell over the crowd of Bizards and trolls as they all gazed into the magical orb.
I see that the clock is real. It exists somewhere underground here in the valley, and if we find it, the valley is ours.
The Bizards and trolls all hollered and yelled and threw their hands up into the air. The head Bizard unrolled a huge map onto the ground, a map big enough to be a blanket. On the map were underground tunnels and cave systems that webbed beneath the surface of the valley. The Bizard pointed and shouted, telling small groups where to go and what to look for. Soon the beasts had all dispersed, set off to seek an ancient artifact that may not even exist, or perhaps is so hidden as to remain hidden for all time. For days and weeks, this uneasy alliance of cave trolls and Bizards combed every inch of explorable underground terrain, treading common ground where they'd been 100 times before, and exploring completely new spaces unseen for centuries. In those weeks of searching, the ninjas of the valley and others commented on how nice things had gotten, and how little there was to do. They thought the valley was simply becoming safer. But really, the villains were spending those hours and days trying to get stronger, trying to turn the tide of battle in their favor to rule the valley. The weeks passed and the cave trolls and Bizards were losing interest in finding this clock artifact. Trolls and Bizards usually had short attention spans and didn't stick with anything for very long. Just when all the beasts were ready to quit, word came down to the southern swamps that something had been found. The head Bizard, known as Grumble, rushed to the location, deep underground in the middle of nowhere there in the valley. He pushed through a crowd of cave trolls and Bizards who had all showed up to see the artifact for themselves.
Move! Get out of the way!
Grumble shouted as he elbowed and shouldered his way to the front of the group. Everyone was huddled in a small cave tunnel. Some cave trolls had found some gold coins on the ground near the wall of this cave, and so they began digging, looking for more coins. As they kept finding more and more coins, they kept digging, and eventually fell into a hidden room there underground. In a box in this room was what they believed to be the magical artifact. Grumble powered his way to the trolls, up to a particularly old troll, who was holding a large pocket watch. This troll had big, bushy gray eyebrows and a hint of a beard, and his dark green body seemed weathered and ancient.
"It made him old,"
said a cave troll standing nearby.
"What?"
snapped Grumble.
"The watch made him old. He was not old. Now he's old," said the troll. "It was that little clock."
The cave troll pointed at the watch in the troll's hand and backed away slowly. The rest of the beasts here also backed up a little now, fearing the power of this strange thing. But Grumble stepped forward, intrigued by the possibility of this being what they'd been looking for. Grumble reached out and took the watch into his own hand, noticing that the hands were moving unusually fast. He carefully turned the knob on the top of the watch, and the hands slowed and finally stopped. Grumble stared into the watch at the gears within and was mesmerized by its machinations.
"Why did it make me old?"
asked the now ancient cave troll.
"Can you make me better?"
Grumble snapped out of it and looked back up to the troll.
"What has been done by magic can be undone by magic," Grumble said. "But I don't have the time right now. Go to the Red Cloaks or something. They should be able to help you. Right now, we've got work to do. Let's go, back to the Bizard camp." "Let's go, Bizards, back to camp."
But the cave trolls blocking the path did not move out of the way. They stood fast, with their huge arms crossed in front of their chests.
"We had an agreement," said one of the trolls. "We all work together, and we all get the magic clock."
Grumble was not known for his patience, and he wanted to get this back to his lab to begin working.
"We did work together, and your work is recognized, okay? But right now you must leave the work to the Bizards. Only our magic knowledge can move the project forward from here."
But the cave trolls didn't budge. Trolls were generally not too smart and had no magical abilities, but they were not just going to let the Bizards walk off with this artifact. Not after Grumble had told them they could use it to take over the valley.
"We go to the Bizard camp too," said one troll. "We go to the laboratory and cave trolls get to use the clock too."
Grumble sighed and looked down at the ground. He realized now that inviting the cave trolls into this plan maybe wasn't the best idea. Sure, they were the ones who found the thing, but now they were dead weight. And now that he thought about it, Grumble knew he had no intentions of sharing the valley with anyone, especially not some stinky green cave trolls.
"You're right, of course," he said, with narrowed eyes. "Come with us to the Bizard camp."
As the group made their ways through the cave and back up to the surface, Grumble and the other Bizards pushed and shoved their way to the front, being sure they would exit the caves first. And when all the Bizards had stomped out into the sunlight, Grumble quickly spun around and blasted the cave entrance with a magical beam from his staff. The opening quickly collapsed beneath a small avalanche of stone and dirt. The trolls all hollered and roared as the cave-in had them trapped. It would take them days to dig themselves out. The cave trolls would surely seek them out to exact their revenge. But the Bizards didn't think that far ahead. They were power-hungry, and could only think of getting the clock to their lab to set their plan in motion. And if everything went to plan, they would soon begin aging all the heroes of the valley until they were so old they could not defend against the Bizards. The end. Thanks for listening, friends. The website is kidstoriespodcast.com. Send all your cool drawings and things to kidstoriespodcast@gmail.com. Adios.